President Muhammadu Buhari asks Nigerians to embrace change, says the nation is making steady progress.
House of Representatives to investigate contracts for the second Niger Bridge and Lagos-Ibadan Expressway.
ECOWAS moves to sustain fight against money laundering and terrorism financing in the sub-region.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus is on the Niger Delta Development Commission, plus the Anambra governorship election.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region has been the hub of oil exploration and production in the country over the years, and with crude oil accounting for the bulk of Nigeria's economic earnings. Now the region remains critical to the nation's growth and development.
Well, exploration and production activities over the years have also led to some negative consequences, such as environmental pollution, destruction of the ecosystem, and a general feeling of neglect by the host communities who decry what they call the low level of development in the region.
Now, many of such grievances led to agitations for resource control and a demand for greater development of the region in proportion to the amount of revenue generated by the nation from crude sales.
Now, some of the agitations ultimately led to the creation of the Niger Delta Development Commission. That's the NDDC in the year 2000. And this was as a response to the demands of the inhabitants of the oil-bearing and producing communities whose relationship with oil companies and indeed the central government had degenerated significantly.
Now, amongst other things, the vision of the NDDC, that's the Niger Delta Development Commission, is to offer a lasting solution to the social economic difficulties of the Niger Delta region, as well as facilitate rapid and sustainable development, which can also lead to economic development of the region, prosperity, social as well as political stability, as well as ecological regeneration.
So, how far has the vision of the NDDC been achieved? That's to say, some 17 years later. What are the challenges still confronting the Commission? And have the people of the region become any much better through the interventions of the NDDC? These are some of the questions we shall be raising with the man who is currently at the helm of affairs at the Commission.
You're quite right, Kingsley. And also on the program today, with less than 24 hours to the Anambra governorship elections, we again beam our searchlights on the preparation for the polls as we take on key players preparing for the elections.
All right, then we shall also join our team of correspondents whom we have deployed across various locations in Anambra to give us an update of happenings in the states. And of course, as usual, being Africa's largest television network, the NTA has made elaborate arrangements to bring to you updated accounts of the elections as they unfold.
That's our package this morning, but you're welcome. My name is Blessing Abu, and this is reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. I'm
Kingsley Osadolov. I join Blessing in also welcoming you, and also to indicate that in the course of the program, we shall have our regular companion segments. These, of course, will include the business section, the newspaper review, and others. In the meantime, let's go over to our colleague who's right here to give us the morning news, and she's Ogwa Vivian Onyedibia. Hi, Ogwa. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Kingsley. Good morning, Blessing. Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to the news. President Muhammadu Buhari is inviting Nigerians to embrace change by doing more to make the steady progress being achieved in Nigeria's national life a permanent feature. At the public presentation of a book, Making Steady, Sustainable Progress for Nigeria's Peace and Prosperity, The president expressed the conviction that the future of Nigeria is bright and promising.
You, by resolving to work with every ounce of my energy to protect your interests, I would at the same time like to assure all Nigerians of my commitment to improve security, 2, fight corruption, and 3, restructuring the economy. Nigeria is now a respected nation. If you steal public funds and are caught, you will face the law. I therefore look to the future with confidence. I invite my fellow Nigerians to embrace change for better and change for good.
And to legislative matters now, 3 critical bills designed to consolidate on the fight against corruption, diversification of the economy and job creation have passed 3rd reading on the floor of the Senate. National Assembly correspondent Dennis Adegunloye reports that amongst this was the Chartered Institute of Customer Relationship Management Bill 2017, which was considered in the Committee of the Whole.
Heavily on customer relationship management is expected to benefit from this bill.
To be charged with the responsibility of registration, discipline of its members.
Exhaustive deliberations were considered on the report of the Joint Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters and Anti-Corruption and Financial.
Well, the House of Representatives is to investigate the nature and condition of contract of the second Niger Bridge and the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. This is sequel to a motion moved by Representative Solomon Bulus Marin, which also seeks to know if there are concession arrangements in the contractual agreement and to also include the project in the 2018 budget.
And if the contract is under concession, the Federal Ministry of Works does not have any other assignment to do in terms of awarding of the contract. Rather, the consortium will now look for a partner to develop that project together.
If it is concession, let us concede. If it is direct contract, let us form it within 3 months.
Lagos-Ibadan is supposedly under concession, but the concession is not working because there is the litigation on it. Second Niger Bridge is not under concession.
And away from that, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says Nigeria remains committed to the peace, security and territorial integrity of neighboring countries in the sub-region. The Vice President said this while receiving a special envoy of the Cameroonian President, René Sadi, who is also Cameroon's Minister of Territorial Administration and Decentralization. He traced the relationship of the two countries to the 1960s. The joint war against terrorism, the Vice President observed, was an evidence of the cooperation between the two countries. In a message delivered by the special envoy, President Paul Biya expressed gratitude to President Muhammadu Buhari and Nigeria's security agencies for cooperation in the fight against insurgency. And the economic slowdown in sub-Saharan Africa is easing, with growth expected to reach 2.6% in 2017 and 3.4% in 2018. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, at the release of its October Regional Economic Outlook for the region, say the broad developmental spectrum contained in the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan will see Nigeria gradually return to the path of sustained growth through diversification.
The other countries have done it with fiscal consolidation and also export diversification, which is going to help those countries go to another level of growth. And that's necessary because otherwise per capita growth is falling.
And efforts are underway to sustain the fight against money laundering and terrorism financing in the West African sub-region. Dele Atumbi reports that this is part of the decisions at the ongoing 28th plenary of the Intergovernmental Action Group Against Money Laundering in West Africa, holding in Abuja.
Nigeria is happy to host this meeting, particularly at this point when the administration of our dear President, President Muhammadu Buhari, is wholly focused and effectively poised to deal with the issues of corruption, money laundering.
And talking health now, wife of the president, Hajia Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, has handed over a well-equipped maternity ward she built at Daura General Hospital to Katsina State government as part of her contribution to reducing maternal and child mortality in the area.
We believe that this facility is going to provide the needed services to women and children, and it is also our hope that this can go probably a long way in reducing the maternal and infant mortality in this part of the country.
Well, that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kingsley and Blessing after this break.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem frontally through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
Securities and Exchange Commission SEC don't land with this ogbonge informate. SEC say person will be shareholder wey never register himself for the e-dividend as it happen, so say make e waka go him register place or for him bank, make them activate him bank account to fit collect dividend money where through wire. Plus including the money of dividend where them never collect this, but to make it never pass 12 years with this money that's down for there. And again, sef, people will buy shares for one company. By the time when the company release their shares, then take different names, take buy up. SEC say they don't give them until 31st of December. Make them take repair them record according to how SEC tape arrange them for proper identificate. Person will never arrange himself by the end of 31st December 2017, SEC go transfer the money go Capital Market Development Fund. This one now trust to this one na SEC brainwork to fit better owner and to give morale to the Nigerian capital market.
This is the game I've been waiting for, and I get a headache. But I remembered Mom's advice. When headache strikes, I always trust Sudrex. Because Sudrex acts fast to relieve headaches. Sudrex, win your day.
Whenever pain occurs, you want quick relief. Try new Nurofen Express. It goes to the source of pain and gets to work in under 15 minutes. That's why Nurofen Express delivers fast and effective relief. New Nurofen Express works at the source of pain. Fast.
Being a mom is great, but when your child has a fever, you don't know what to do. I trust Nurofen for Children to take care of my child's pain and fever.
Effective relief you can trust.
Kehinde suffers from indigestion. His twin Taiyi suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around, or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts for up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action.
Your perfect family is under threat by germs. Infectious diseases are now the world's biggest killer of adults and children. Every day, 16,000 children under the ages of 5 and thousands of adults die from infectious diseases. These infectious diseases are caused by germs. They are everywhere. An average human being comes in contact with over 1 million germs daily. in unclean water, dirty surfaces, in the toilet, on cuts and wounds, on your clothes. Germs can cause deadly diseases like typhoid, diarrhea, flu, and cough. To protect your family from germs, use the power of Dettol's 1 Cap Full for surface cleaning in your bathing water, in your laundry water, for first aid, to protect your family from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Be Dettol Sure. Endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and time now to take a look at what the business is saying for the day. Now, Nigerian Film Corporation is creating entrepreneurs of hip zeal in Nigeria youth through partnerships that extend beyond the shores of Nigeria. Let's find out more details on this, as well as other stories with Kulu Mohammed.
Welcome to Business News. Diversification of the economy is one avenue Nigeria's economy can sustain its exit from recession. The Nigerian Film Corporation says it is partnering with federal government's social investment program to hand youth sufficient know-how on motion picture photography, which it says is the new cash cow globally.
And the film industry is being at the tipping edge of this issue, be it in the film, entertainment, in television, is therefore poised to leapfrog this country in a manner that a digital economy will be very, very robust. Today we have a training platform which we are working with N-Power called the Mobile Training Platform in the office of the Vice President under the SIP program.
Morocco indicated interest in the move by the corporation and currently working closely to foster beneficial training sessions for youths.
It might interest you to know that our effort has been taken notice of by even foreign countries like Kingdom of Morocco, who are committed to coming to Nigeria, offering scholarship, making sure that our people enhance their capacity in the area of motion picture production. Established
through Decree 61 of 1979, the Nigerian Film Corporation's headquarters is in Jos Plateau State. The first film shown in Nigeria was in 1903 at Glover Hall, Lagos, while the first film shot in Nigeria was in Jos Plateau State in 1904. The film's title, Spalava. And 90,000 metric tons of maize import from Argentina worth over $10 million have been rejected by the federal government. The grains, believed to not only contain genetic materials, but importers are said to not have met import regulations. $10 million experts say will go a long way if spread amongst farmers in Nigeria.
We had a press statement warning anyone that wants to import any genetically modified seeds or grains into this country or any other material, they should obtain permit from the agency, particularly when they are genetically modified.
Nigeria remains the largest producer of maize in the sub-Saharan Africa, producing over 15 million metric tons annually. Maize business in sub-Saharan Africa is put at $30 billion annually, supporting millions of jobs. And the equities market closed Thursday in the green as NSE All-Share Index gained 0.05% to close at 6,634.89 basis points. For all the closing figures from Thursday's trading, let's now see a graphic representation. That's Business News. Good Morning Nigeria continues in just a moment. Thanks for watching.
Thank you very much, Kolo, there for the business package. Newspaper review is next on Good Morning Nigeria.
Here is Omini Oden to take a look at the papers with us this morning. Good morning to you, Omini.
Good morning, Blessing. Good morning, Kingsley. Good morning, Nigerians.
Right. Okay, let's kick off with the Daily Trust. So I have for the Daily Trust something running through almost all the papers as well. That is a photograph of the front page of the Daily Trust Forms story talking about Jonathan's government won gold medal in corruption, Tinubu says. Well, this was part of a speech at a book presentation that took place in Abuja on Thursday. And that's also the photograph you have on the front page of the Independent newspaper. And also the lead story. Buhari prepared for the worst during medical vacation. This is the story credited to Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. 3 riders. Tinubu advises him to heed calls for true federalism. Says Jonathan government won gold medal in corruption. And the president says he's not done with treasury looters. Kingsley?
Well, that story, which comes from the book launch yesterday at the presidential villa, is also the lead for the Authority newspaper. And the Authority has it like this with a kicker. Buhari to appointees. Steal public fund, go to jail. 2 riders. President doing well, says Odigi Oyegu, who is chair of the APC, and Jonathan, most corrupt Nigerian leader. That's according to Tinubu. Now, the story, it's also there on the front page of the blueprint with a photograph, and it says, steal and go to jail, Buhari tells government officials. With a rider, Chibok girls will be released soon. And then you have the photograph of some of the dignitaries who were present at the book launch yesterday. Now, it's also there on the front page of the Punch newspaper, above the nameplate, one of 2 headlines above the name flag of the Punch newspaper. Do more to address Nigerians' suffering, Tinubu tells Buhari. And that story is in greater detail on page 7.
Yes, yesterday at the public presentation of what most of the papers described as a 360-page book that chronicles the midterm scorecard of the present administration led by Muhammadu Buhari. The president gave assurance to Nigerians that the onslaught on corrupt officials is ongoing, and that he will sustain what they promised to do. He made mention of the fact that they have tackled Boko Haram insurgency, and for the economy, it says it is work in progress, and that he will repay Nigerians the goodwill they offered to him during this time of ailment, and that whatever it is unfolding and the nation is moving forward. The keynote speaker, chieftain of APC, Shiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu, in his keynote dwelt on a number of issues, and one of it is that he called on Mr. President to do more to address Nigerian sufferings through the policies churned out by the federal government. But he spoke to the need for true federalism and the fact that squandering of the nation's commonwealth by the previous administration, but the APC government is doing everything to upturn that record, and a couple of other comments. But the papers clearly said the book more or less was a midterm review of the present administration.
All right, Tomini, thanks a lot. The other story that we also have on the front pages of the 3 papers that I have, 2 of them actually, not 3, that's the Punch. It's a lead story for the Punch, it's a story out of Harare. 93-year-old Mugabe resists military pressure to resign. The details of that story can be found on page 10. But then there is a photograph there splashed on the front page showing to the right side of, you can see that that's General Constantino Chiwenga, who is the commander of the defense forces. Mugabe himself is there together with the 2 envoys from South Africa. Of course, they had meetings. It was the first time that Mugabe and the commander of the defense forces were meeting since the military struck on Tuesday. So, but negotiations are going on, but the headline, according to the Punch, is 93-year-old Mugabe resists military pressure to resign. Now, that's the lead story also for Blueprint. Blueprint says, stalemate in Zimbabwe, Mugabe still under house arrest. I would give up power, says 93-year-old leader. He is safe, military assures. That's on page 6. But the fact that, of course, he left his private residence yesterday to go to the State House for that meeting.
Okay, that story on Zimbabwe is also from page of Daily Trust, but first you find more details on page 41. But it says Mugabe in talks over his future. That story, like I said, is on page 41. And, well, quickly, you might not be able to see that immediately. Still in line with Zimbabwe's story. Zimbabwe crisis is confusing. This is coming from the United Nations chief, Antonio Guterres. More details, like I said, on page 41. Quickly now to other stories that we have. For the Daily Trust, leading for the Daily Trust this morning, Mena, that's a former chairman of the Presidential Task Force on Pension Reform, Abdulrashid Mena, writes to appear before House of Reps, a panel. Starts right there but continues on page 5. Okay, anyone on the House of Reps?
Yeah, the House of Reps story is also on the front page of Punch newspaper, and just below it's at the foot of the front page, by the way. It says Mena, that's the kicker, that's the what is also been referred to sometimes as the Mena Gate. Reps to question Dambazao, AGF and HOS on live telecast. That story is on page 9 in greater detail of the Punch newspaper. But you also have a story related to that, but not exactly on the Mena Gate. It's on the front page of Blueprint. Let's bring in Omini now to discuss some of these details.
Yeah, before we go to Zimbabwe, let's take off from Nigeria. The House of Representatives has concluded. The ad hoc committee says they will start the public hearing or investigation into the Mena Gate, specifically on bordering on how it was reinstated into the public service. And the resolution is that everything will be done on national TV, specifically on the network service of the NTA. And the lineup of top government officials to appear include the acting chairman of the EFCC, ICPC, the Minister of Interior, Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and the head of the Civil Service of the Federation. Mena, the prime suspect or the major person in the whole thing, has offered to come out from hiding to testify before the panel on public TV. So agitations are ripe, who are willing to, and the analysis are clear that it's an unfolding story, just like we described what is happening in Zimbabwe as an unfolding story. The papers have various angles to it. Some say it's a stalemate, some say he resists handover of power, insisting that he must officially hand over at the appropriate time. Some say he has accepted and there's going to be an interim government that will conduct election on the date of election, independence of Zimbabwe in April next year. So there are various angles to it, but like we said yesterday, it's a developing story, and in a couple of days it will know how it transpires.
All right. Well, I mean, that's to say that the negotiations are ongoing.
Exactly, exactly.
Just to give him a soft landing. Otherwise, he's lost effective control of the country. But there are other headlines, of course, you will see on.
But I think there's a lot of commendation on the South African development community for the effort so far. They have been there.
Quickly,
yes.
Yeah, but that's just before we sign you off, just to say that there are other stories, some tragedy in Lagos yesterday.
Yes.
And also in the Lagos area, by the way, it's there on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Above the nameplate, it says 9 killed as train hits truck in Lagos and vehicles crash in Ogun. Details of that story can be found on pages 4 and 5. And then there are other stories, as we indicated, that you'll find. For
that, your other story too, 13 dead were recorded for independent papers.
The pictures about that tragic incident, they're quite graphic, because some of those who died are those who hang on the train. When the train came on a headlong collision with the truck, they were just killed instantly. 4.
That's most unfortunate.
Yes.
I mean, then we would like to thank you for being here. We hope you enjoy your weekend.
I wish you same too.
We'll continue with the rest of Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you so much.
All right, so we'll take a short break now. When we return, we have 2 issues for discussion. We'll be going over to our team of correspondents who are spread around Anambra State to get a feedback from them as to what is happening. Just about less than 24 hours now before voters go to the polls there in Anambra. Plus, the NDDC, what's going on?
The Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture, the Made in Nigeria campaign, In the midst of unprecedented multiple challenges, our great country Nigeria, as Africa's largest economy, is surely marching on to a new era of all-round prosperity, especially through re-engineered and diversified economy, powerfully driven by the change agenda of President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR.
We will patronize local entrepreneurs. We will promote the manufacturing powerhouses. Our objective is to make Nigeria a new manufacturing hub.
It is not time to complain. It is time to join the campaign. It is time for economic recovery, growth and diversification of our economy by Made in Nigeria.
Dettol team is visiting schools to teach children how to protect themselves from diseases. Do you know how we get illnesses like diarrhea, cough, and cold? No! They are spread through germs which are everywhere. You collect germs that cause diseases. You pick up germs from any surface, like when you don't wash your hands after going to the toilet, while playing. And then you can get sick because of germs. That's why you need to fight germs to stay healthy by washing your hands and taking your bath with Dettol soap to protect from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Wash, wash, wash your hands. What you have to do is bath yourself. Dettol soap every day. Wash, wash, wash your hands.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
I was distressed to notice that some of the comments, especially in the social media, have crossed our national red lines by daring to question our collective existence as a nation. This is a step too far.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Hold it! Me! I don't come out my hand from oil bunkering. General, what you gonna yarn? What did the yarn say? I don't understand though. Because they spoil our water and our environment. And they cause our people serious harm. Militants say, you know good. Me! I not do again Sam. Because why? Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Sir Ahmadu Bello, Chief Obafemi Awolowo.
These patriots worked together to achieve independence for one united Nigeria. Although some may say Nigeria is a mistake, we all know that the Almighty never makes mistakes.
God has not made a mistake by bringing us all together in the way that He has brought us together. God has put us together here so that we can build a community that will be an example to the entire world.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
All right, you're welcome back. But if you just joined us, it's still Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. On Saturday, the 18th of November, voters will go to the polls in Anambra State to elect a new governor. There are 37 candidates who are seeking election, including the incumbent, who, of course, is seeking re-election. We have a number of correspondents who are all out there in Anambra, as we indicated earlier before we went on the short break. But we also have a guest with us here in the studios, of course, a familiar face on Good Morning Nigeria with regard to election matters. That's Mr. Jide Ojo, a political analyst. I would like to welcome you to this edition of the program.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right, Blessing.
Yes, let's start just like an appraisal of what we've seen so far. Assessments of the preparation, voters' view to what is going to be happening on Saturday. How ready do you think Anambra is from your point of view?
Well, incidentally, I wrote my column in the Punch on this same topic 2 days ago. I think everybody is ready, but barring no unforeseen circumstance, I think all should go well. I recall that since February 23, when INEC reeled out the timetable for this election, a lot of activities have actually been taking place. On the part of INEC, I can name about a dozen activities that has happened. From continuous voter registration exercise, collection of permanent voters card, monitoring of the party primaries, procurement of sensitive and non-sensitive materials, even having stakeholders meeting, leading the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, accreditation of observers, of journalists, of party agents. So quite a number of activities on the part of INEC. On the part of civil society, you also recall that the civil society organizations monitored the continuous voter registration exercise and a host of other things.
All right, talking about monitoring, a team of reporters are already in Anambra State. I would like to start off with Mohammed. So once we... Mohammed Ali, good morning. I know you're already on the field in Oka, and I would like to have a feel of what's the situation is in Anambra this morning. You're already in Oka. Mohammed, good morning. Okay, we're quite sorry for this nagging audio, but I'm sure we'll be able to get the signal on quickly and rejoin Mohammed. Okay, back to us here in the studio, Kingsley.
All right, just let Jide flow from where he stopped earlier. Well, in terms of preparations, where's the lead up to tomorrow's vote? What is your take on the apparent avalanche of candidates for the election? A record 37 of them are seeking to govern Anambra. I'm not sure what the population of Anambra is now, the exact figure, so that you split and then see what the ratio is like.
Yeah, incidentally, Anambra has broken all records in terms. It used to be a very litigious state. People usually will have a number of suits filed ahead of elections like this, but this time around, there is no, to the best of my knowledge, there is no lawsuit pending as either against or any of the candidates. But since 1922 that Nigeria started electoral democracy, no election, including presidential election, at up to 37. So we have 46 political parties, and if 37 of them are showing interest, it shows that Anambra has something that everybody feels that they can contribute. Of course, I always say this, there are contenders and there are pretenders. So we have those two categories at every election. Of course, 37 years, 5 of them are female governorship candidates, 8 of them are female deputy candidates. You have age range of about 28 to about 61 among the contestants. And I wonder where the parties that feel candidate as deputy governor whose age is 28. The law is very clear. You can't run as Well, that's left for INEC. I don't want to go
well,
there.
You're very the bottom line is
there are contenders and there are pretenders. Of course, there are. For me, to the best of my knowledge, it's more or less 3-4 races.
Okay, okay, Mr. Ojo, let's return to Mohammed Ali, who is in Noka. Okay, Mohammed, I know there are other preparations already done from the different institutions, but what key preparation are you seeing in Noka?
Thank you very much, Blessing. The preparation here is okay. Everything is set. The people are in the mood. There is excitement in the air. Yesterday, when we arrived, we spoke with the resident electoral commissioner, and he told us that they are ready. We also saw that some materials were being dispatched as early as possible, so that there is not going to be any incidents of late arrival of materials. So, OCA is and the security personnel as well. They are ready. We can see them moving to various places, and there are security presence as well. In short, the election is everything about the election is set, and the people are going to be polled tomorrow. Just for additional information, we have about 37 candidates contesting this election, and we also have the incumbent governor who is also running, and the other 36 candidates, and the campaign has been very, very intense.
Okay, Mohammed, still looking at what the people will be doing tomorrow. What kind of excitement are you seeing from the people's comments, since you arrived, Oka? I know the streets are actually barely empty behind you now. That shows that, okay, activities has not actually kicked off for the day. But what is the mood like for the people beyond the preparation from the institutions you've talked about?
Well, I couldn't hear you clearly, actually, Grace, but I think, are you asking the preparation of the Independent National Electoral Commission? If that was what you asked, I think, hello? Okay.
Voters, what kind of mood do you think they are in? You've talked about 37 candidates already. Does the same with Mr. Ojo here I've talked about in the studio. Now, what is the mood for the people, really, beyond what you've seen from the institutional preparation?
The few people I spoke with, actually, I even wanted to speak to one or two here, but because of some reasons now, I'm not going to speak with them. But let me speak with my colleague here, Ngozi, okay, who has been monitoring the situation here. She's going to tell us more. Ngozi, how were the campaigns concerning this particular incident? The campaigns, how did it go?
In Anambra State, all the political parties are preparing, working very hard to emerge victorious tomorrow. I can tell you, as at yesterday when the campaigns have ended openly, people are still working very hard to emerge victorious at the grassroots. At this level, there was no incidence of violence. The campaigns were on and people were ready to come out. I can also tell you that people in political parties, there were a series of political campaigns going on everywhere. 2, 3, 4 political parties having their campaigns simultaneously, but there was no incidence of violence. Everything went smoothly, and people are ready to vote tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Ngozi. So you've had the situation here. The people are calm. You can see from every part of Anambra State, the people are hoping to come out tomorrow en masse and in orderly manner to see that they vote for the candidate of their choice. The security, as I said earlier, has been perfect from what we have seen and from the discussion we had with the security officials. And the Independent National Electoral Commissioner informed us, that is the right, informed us that they are very much ready. He was in our studios yesterday, actually, and he told us the level of preparedness. And we've also seen that every hand is on deck to see that this election takes place. It is credible, it is acceptable, and it is violence-free.
All right, well, Mohammed, just before we let you go, I'm just wondering, the police indicated yesterday when we had the first PRO here in the Abuja studios to tell us that you have some 26,000 men and officers of the police force, including, of course, thousands of other paramilitary, if not military, personnel who are also on ground. Have you seen anything like the typical show of force on the eve of the elections, a dramatization of the presence of security?
Sorry, Kingsley, I couldn't hear you. What I hear most is the voices of the engineers are giving instructions to my other colleagues who are Bruno and Anambra, who are in Oka and Colombia. Please, can you come again and so that if I can hear what you asked me?
Sir Mohammed, my question is, has there been the typical show of force by the security forces ahead of tomorrow's voting?
Yes, the security presence was very visible for everybody to see, so that anybody that is thinking of fomenting any trouble or violence will know that the security are up. So they are very visible. As at yesterday, even this morning, if you are moving, you will see their vehicles, especially yesterday night when they were strategically located in every place. They were just standing by the side, not interfering with anything, but you can see that they are ready to take on any incident of violence or whatever that may occur.
All right, Mohammed Ali, I don't know if the audio is still good. One other point that I would like you to speak to. One point I would like you to speak to. I understand that your audio is having challenges, but maybe we'll get back to you later on in the course of the program if we can reach you. All right, let's come back to Jide Ojo in the studios before we get our other correspondents. One is at Onitsha and the other is at Kulobia. We'll get them in the course of the conversation. We shall bring them in. Jide Ojo, just before we went over to our correspondent, Muhammad Ali, you were talking about the sheer plenitude of the number of contestants and what you categorize as pretenders and contenders. Is this just an ego trip, in your opinion, for the pretenders who, at some point after the election, might be able to brag, with the greatest respect to them, that former governorship candidate, as we always say, as a prefix before their names?
Yeah, it does happen, and it's allowed in politics. You know, every political party has equal status. There is no big or small political party as far as the electoral management body is concerned. Irrespective of the number or the strength of your membership, you are treated equal. And in fact, if all the 46 political parties wanted to field candidates, INEC will have gladly allowed all of them to be on the ballot. And that's the worrisome aspect, you know, when we want to open the deluge and don't have, we don't have conditions for getting on the ballot for political. I mean, let me paint a scenario to you. There are 37 political parties. Each of these 37 political parties has a right to have a party agent at the polling unit. Just imagine there will be an average of 4 to 6 election officials. Statutorily, that will be there. You know, presiding officer, poll clerk, and all of that. There will be security, 1 or 2 or maybe 4 that will be there. Now, 37 party agents crowding the polling unit. That is why in other climes, there are always conditions for you to be on the ballot. It's just not about, yes, I'm a registered political party, then I have to field candidate. There must be condition precedent for you to be on the. But that is not an issue that is within the purview of INEC. If there is an amendment, there should be, because yes, these people just crowd the space. By and large, you find out that they also have the status to challenge the process. And if peradventure anything goes wrong along the chain, it can lead to the nullification of the election, because any of them can challenge the outcome and say, look, I wasn't giving. We have had incidents in the past where, by error of omission or commission, the name or the logo of a party is not on the ballot paper. The next thing you see them going to court, and the court nullifying such elections. It happened in 1999 to 2007. We have that scenario that even a party that ordinarily, whether you had that election 100 times, will never win, goes ahead, challenge the process that it was lawfully nominated this candidate, but unlawfully was excluded. And you know, the election was nullified. So, but it's a democratic choice. We cannot shut down the space against any political party. Suffice to know, to say that the voters, the electorates in Anambra will know, and we will know by tomorrow who is their preferred candidate. Is it the incumbent? Has he done well for him to be returned to the State House? If he has not done well, maybe it's an opportunity for them to have a new leader. But the choice actually is with the Anambra people.
All right, Judo Joe, thank you very much again. We'll come back to you. Let's go over now to one of our correspondent of ours who is in Anambra. We're going over now to the commercial city of Anambra, and that's Onitsha, where we have Nnamdi Odikpo. You can see him there on the right side of your screen. Hi, Nnamdi. What is the situation in the lead up to tomorrow's voting in Anambra? All right, we see that Nnamdi is trying to get across to us. But once we have the okay, we'll go back to him in Onitsha. That's Nnamdi Odikpo, our correspondent, is right there in Onitsha. As I said, once we have the okay, we get back to him. Well, Nnamdi Odikpo, if you can hear me, just give us a situation report on the eve of the election tomorrow in Anambra from the Onitsha perspective.
Well, Kingsley, I didn't get that question. Would you please just take it once more?
Tell us what is happening, or what has been happening to the best of your knowledge on the eve of voting tomorrow in Anambra from the Onitsha perspective. Well, Nnamdi, whatever you can hear, just tell us what the situation is in Anambra tomorrow, ahead of the voting tomorrow, rather.
Of Anambra State. Well, between last night and this morning, a lot is actually... Yes, Kingsley, yes. Well, yes, Kingsley, like you asked, between yesterday and this morning, a lot has actually happened. We do know that campaigns have pegged last night, of course, in accordance with the Electoral Act. So, we're in Onitsha, like I said earlier when we started, over my left is the popular Niger Bridge, the gateway into the eastern axis of the country. Well, Onitsha has changed quite a lot since the last time I was here, and I would say the changes appear quite apparent. A lot, of course, might have to do with the election, and I could tell from the mood of the people that have had the opportunity to interact with and speak to that it had somewhat to do with the election. There seemed to be some sort of sobriety amongst the people. But of course, this is to be expected anytime there is an election in Anambra State. The people tend to bond, they tend to go into their groups and, of course, to strategize for the election. Well, talking about Anambra and election, it's quite a fluid situation here when it comes to politics here. It's quite a dynamic state in terms of election, and so we expect much from this coming election. We do not know where the tide would flow, but we expect that the people would come out and participate massively in this exercise. Kingsley, maybe I should just quickly state here that already we're having records being made when it comes to this election. We do know that INEC has released the figure of registered voters that will be participating in this election, and I think this is arguably the largest number of figure ever to emanate from Anambra State in terms of election, of people participating in the election. It's presently currently pegged at 2.1 million registered voters. This is by far the highest number of registered voters to participate in a governorship election in Anambra State, Kingsley.
Nnamdi, still with you. I mean, you're right there at Onitsha, and you were talking about this, the Niger Bridge, which is the gateway into and out of Anambra. We understand that from the police and indeed the security agencies, there will be a lockdown from midnight later today up until the election is over. What sense do you get from the residents with regard to their preparations ahead of the lockdown for voting?
Well, Kingsley, like I said earlier when I started, this is quite a very busy city. It's well known across the country that Onitsha is one of the most viable, it's always busy from morning till night. We do expect, of course, that the lockdown of the bridge, because of this election, would affect activities here in Onitsha. But we do also know that normally during elections, there is restriction of movement. And so the people would have already anticipated this move, and they're already preparing for these, and would of course have to go about their duties or the activities of businesses as usual until the lockdown comes into effect. Onitsha is calm comparatively, as in relatively, compared to other times. The mood here, the ambience here is calm. It's quite pensive. Like I did say earlier when I was talking, it's sober. Of course, this has to do a lot with the election. People are having to think about what choice they would have to make, and it's expected that they will be calm as they go about this. Kingsley, let me just quickly also state there's also the issue of security here in Onitsha. In the past, we know that some parts of Onitsha have been identified or were flashpoints. The police has already come out to say that they would be deploying a considerable number of personnel down here in some parts of Onitsha, and of course, like the popular Opi-Weka axis of this city. But of course, the police has also said that residents should go about their lawful activities and should remain calm and have no fears at all of harassment, of intimidation from their personnel. Kingsley.
We are still on the security issue, Nnamdi. Are we still hearing about threats, from persons who were talking about a boycott or otherwise threatening to molest law-abiding citizens who will go out tomorrow to vote?
Well, Kingsley, I can assure you that on that part, things have been quite quiet. We know that the now proscribed group, let's not call names here, but we do know what group it is, have been quite quiet since after the court actually declared that it has been proscribed and it is an illegal group. We expect that the people of Anambra State would come out to participate in large numbers, of course, to participate in this election. If the number of registered voters in this election, for this election, is anything to go by, it is a show of interest. It is a show of wanting to be part of this exercise. I expect, if you ask me, my reporter's guess is that we would see a record number of people coming out to participate in this exercise. Kingsley.
All right, Nnamdi, well, thank you very much. I'll come back to you, find out more details of all the happenings around you in Onitsha there. Thank you very much. Now we'll get back to the studio, Mr. Joe. For Nnamdi and the likes, being excited about the number. 2.1 registered voters released. I think that's quite a number to actually look forward to getting the attention of the 37 candidates. Now, do you see other concerns for the populace there over this number, and also the number of political parties?
Thank you very much. Before I address that question, let me withdraw my earlier statement about and 28 contestants. I think it's 38. That's the minimum between the age of 38 and 61 or thereabout. That's my gut feeling. I mean the candidates and their deputy. That's the correction I'm trying to make, so that I don't mislead the public on that. Having said that, history, and this is my worry, basically, and I highlighted it in my column on Wednesday. In previous elections, save for 2007 when there was about 67% turnout of voters. And we know how that election was.
People said that those were cooked up figures.
Thank you very much. Save for that election, the one of 2010, which I was privileged to observe in Anambra, the turnout was 17%. The one of 2013, which is the last one before tomorrow's, the turnout was just 24%. And that was an election in which there was even no subtle threat by any agitators or whatever. So the track record does not give one a sense of optimism about mass turnout of voters. And that was basically my underlining concern that made me to write about the need for the Anambra and Anambrarians to ignore those who are calling for boycott of that election. Because if you boycott the election, the point is this: whether it's 10 people that come out to vote, in as well as the basic requirement of the law is met, which is that a candidate to be declared the winner of that governorship election must satisfy two conditions. One, you must have majority of valid vote cast. Two, you must have 25% or 1/4 of votes in 2/3 of the 21 local government making up Anambra. So whether it's 10 people across the 21 local government that comes out, because you recall that the election of second election of Peter Obi in 2010, barely 310,000 people voted Obi for his second term. That's why. Abysmally low, 17%. I was privileged to be part of the stakeholders meeting with INEC chairman about a month ago. And he raised this concern that the by-election that was held in Lagos, I think it was whatever, House of Reps election, the turnout was just 3%. 3%. And here you have a situation where you make provisions for all. It used to be, the excuse used to be, oh, maybe because there is accreditation before voting, which is not helping people, because if you say accreditation will hold between 8 a.m. and 12:30 or 12, and then voting will start at 12:30, in which case you can go and come back. Many people will not come back for one reason or the other. But now, under this current Professor Mahmoud Yakub's administration, election, the accreditation and voting is simultaneous. Now, we may see a dynamic change tomorrow. One, if the Anambrarians decide to ignore those who are calling for the boycott, number one. Two, if the 37 candidates actually play their role of mobilizing their supporters and the electorates generally to participate in the election. INEC on its own has been doing its level best. It doesn't have infinite resources to do voter education. I know that civil society organizations, YAGA and the rest of them, has been doing a wonderful job mobilizing voters, including sponsorship of radio programs and other, running jingles and the rest. But usually, political parties and contestants leave this responsibility to INEC, whereas they should be in the forefront of this. Because if you mobilize, many of them will claim that they have million members and all of that. It should translate to votes. And if you conscientize and mobilize your voter, and they come out massively, at least let's see some 50 above. That will encourage even the election management body.
How would you factor in the point made by some political pundits that the race is open, and therefore, to the extent that it's open, that imposes or has imposed the responsibility on the candidates to seek to mobilize their supporters? Is the fact that the winner is unclear or unsure likely to be a motivating factor to mop up the votes?
Exactly. And this time around, one thing I must commend the Anambrarian for, or the Anambra people for, is at least thus far, the party primaries went on very peacefully, the 37 of them. The only incident, to the best of my knowledge, was 2 parties that substituted their elected candidates between Oka and Abuja. And that raised some concern, but it's an internal party affair. You know, INEC doesn't have a say because the law says whoever a party nominates, even if INEC was there, witness the party primaries, if there is a change of candidate, INEC cannot do anything according to Section 31 of the Electoral Act. But the election, both party primaries, campaigns have been very peaceful, just like one of your correspondents said earlier. That can dovetail into giving people assurance that if they come out, their votes will count. 2 is the issue of security. 26,000 on the part of Nigerian police, excluding those that will be deployed by civil defense, the DSS and the rest. If people are reassured and assured that, okay, their lives will be safe, because the subtle threat by those agitators that they will kill, although they have debunked that they never threatened that anybody who votes will be murdered or killed, but that they should massively boycott the election. If the people ignore that advice and come out en masse to demonstrate, because the good thing, like you said, Kingsley, is that nobody is sure who is going to be the winner. Nobody is at rest. Nobody can go to sleep and say, no, I've won the party primaries. As it's in the past, where somebody will win the party primaries and go to sleep and say, oh, it's a done deal. Just let the day come.
We'll put your pause now. Let's go over to another colleague of ours, Brendan Kudu, who is in Ekulobia. And we want to take a situation report of what is happening in Ekulobia. That is a part of Anambra State as well. So what more do we know about the preparation in that part of the state? Brendan Kudu.
Good morning, Blessing. Like you rightly pointed out, I am reaching you live now from Ekulobia. Ekulobia is the headquarters of Abuja local government area in Anambra district. And you know, it's one of the major local government areas, major cities after Oka. The situation here is very calm. There is a lot of enthusiasm on the part of voters of Anambra State, and they are waiting for the D-Day, which is 18th of November 2017, to cast their vote in the gubernatorial election. The situation, as you can see around the area, the central area here, people are going their normal duty. This is the state government has declared quality people to move from this town to their local government areas to cast their vote. I have with me one of the community leaders in the area who will give us a situation report as he's a community leader. Come here. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Can you introduce yourself to Nigerians?
Oh, well. Yeah, I'm Chief Ibo Keke, the President General of the Global town.
People of Anambra State are going to the poll tomorrow to cast their vote.
Yeah.
Can you give us the situation as a community leader here?
Yeah. Well, my town, my community, they are calm. They are working normal. As you can see, everybody's going around doing their normal businesses. And we have people to come out in mass and vote. And I think it's going to be the best election in Anambra State. Because this time around, everybody wants to vote. Even the children in the villages, they are so much eager to come out and vote.
And the major issue is about peace.
Yeah.
People of Anambra State, you know, election is about election and the election proper and after election, so that it maintains the peace in the entire process.
Yes. What I want to tell Anambra State is that I know that this will be a election in Anambra State because all the parties have the governorship. But we are trying to make sure that our own side are peaceful and calm. And I want to advise the electorates to come out en masse, vote the people of their choice or any person of their choice, And I'm assuring you, there will be no problem. Everybody is calm.
That's Abdullahi Birnikudu, our correspondent there, speaking to one of the interviewees at Ekulobia, which is one of the locations where we have three of our correspondents. Of course, because of our various bulletins, as well as our special focus on the Anambra voting, the correspondents will continue to stream in their reports. Abdullahi Birnikudu, thank you very much. You joined us from Ekulobia. Our thanks also to Namdi Odukbo, who is at Onitsha, and also Muhammad Ali, who is in Oka, the state capital. So let's come back very quickly to Jide Ojo in our studios. Jide, almost invariably, from what we have seen in the history of elections in Nigeria, you can actually prepare, draft a script and say this is what will happen. Materials will arrive late despite the best preparations. A few incidents of violence, perhaps underage voting, ballot snatching, and so on and so forth. Could this be the calm before the storm in Anambra?
Well, I hope INEC's best intentions will be realized. The chairman has assured and reassured the electorate that is doing everything, including making sure that there are no itches or glitches. You recall that, but today, all the materials will have moved to what is called registration area center,
so-called racks.
So for easy movement to PUs by tomorrow morning. So all things being equal, we should not have late commencement of voting. There should be no snatching of ballot boxes, because it has become old-fashioned for you to be snatching. But there will be color coding. There will be, the ballot papers are going to be highly securitized. So even if you snatch, you are doing yourself a disservice, because the result of that polling unit will be cancelled. And once it's cancelled, that means you don't have a choice in who governs you. And it could be your one vote that will make all the difference. So people should learn to behave with decorum. Elections should be a peaceful exercise, a very non-violent exercise. We hope that everything will go well tomorrow, and that at the end of the day, the best candidate will win. That is my hope.
Jide Ojo, public affairs analyst and always a guest with us on Good Morning Nigeria. I would like to thank you for your insights.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning, Nigerians, once again.
All right, still Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break now. When we return, it will be time for NDDC and matters arising from its operations 17 years on.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, you're welcome back. As we indicated, we have 2 items for discussion today. We're done with the Anambra voting, which is taking place tomorrow, Saturday. Now we have with us in the studios the Managing Director of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, Mr. Nsima Ekere. Mr. Ekere, a pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Kingsley.
All right. Blessing?
Before we go there, the Niger Delta Development Commission came into being as a response to the agitation for development of the region, which produces most of Nigeria's wealth. Now, since 2000, that's the year 2000, when the NDDC was established, so much has transpired as it strives to attain its objective. Now, let's find out more details with Leah Katumba Batunde in this background report on NDDC.
The Niger Delta region of Nigeria consists of states where most of the nation's oil exploration has been taking place. The exploration of oil over these years saw the region coming under heavy environmental degradation, thereby distorting the ecosystem and the people's means of livelihood. In the 1990s, ethnic groups in the region teamed up to confront the Nigerian government and multinational oil companies over the degradation of the land. There have also been agitation and demands for greater autonomy and control of the area's petroleum resources, citing extensive environmental degradation and pollution from oil activities that have occurred in the region since the late 1950s and the lack of development of the region. In 2000, the government established the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, with the sole mandate of developing the oil-rich Niger Delta region. The states covered by the NDDC include Rivers, Bayelsa, Delta, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Abia, Edo, Imo, and Ondo states. The Commission was given the mandate to formulate policies and guidelines for the development of the Niger Delta area and also the conception, planning, and implementation of projects and programs for sustainable development of the Niger Delta area. The fields to be covered include roads, jetties, and waterways, health, employment, industrialization, agriculture and fisheries, housing and urban development, water supply, electricity and telecommunications. The NDDC was also mandated to survey the Niger Delta in order to ascertain measures necessary to promote its physical and socio-economic development, preparing master plans and schemes designed to promote the physical development of the Niger Delta region, and the estimation of the member states of the Commission. Implementation of all the measures approved for the development of the Niger Delta region by the federal government and the states of the Commission, among others. However, the operations of the NDDC have not been without challenge. Some of these challenges border on project abandonment, project duplication, corruption and embezzlement, lack of synergy with state and local governments, and the disregard for the provision of the NDDC Act. In 2016, President Muhammadu Buhari appointed Senator Victor Ndomaegba and Nsima Ikere as the chairman and managing director of the Niger Delta Development Commission, while others were appointed into the board. The new management says it is turning the barrage of negativity that used to characterize the commission. On Good Morning Nigeria today, we x-rayed the activities of the management of the NDDC and if truly they are living up to expectations of the people of the region and Nigeria as a whole.
Thank you very much, Leah Katumba today for that background report. Earlier, we introduced the Managing Director of NDDC, Nsima Ikere. Mr. Ikere, of course, you listen to our background report. Now, what has changed or what is changing with regard to the narratives about the Niger Delta and the NDDC mandate to alter the experience of the Niger Delta people since the commencement of oil exploration and production activities?
Well, I'll start by saying that it is like a tiny drop of water in an ocean. The Niger Delta region generally is highly, highly challenged. It's the area, over 70% of the land mass is below sea level. The terrain is very, very bad. We have loads of creeks. The communities lacking basic infrastructure, spreading over 9 states of the region. Now, in this kind of situation where you have loads and loads of requirements, loads and loads of needs by these communities, you see that the work required is so huge, it's so much. Over the years, successive managements of the Commission have done a lot in developing the Niger Delta region. Of course, there have been challenges, and we won't say there haven't been. But over 8,300 projects executed by NDDC, about 40% of them completed and commissioned. I listened to that narrative, the background that you just gave, and you see that the story has been that in NDDC, projects have been abandoned and projects have not been completed. And I think it's because, you see, when the successive managements came in, they're probably using the resources that they were expecting based on the act to come in. They went ahead and committed to doing so much. Unfortunately, most of those monies haven't come in. The federal government in itself hasn't been able to pay up most of the funds it's supposed to have been to have given to the commission. As at date, we still have about 1.7 trillion that we haven't been able to collect from the federal government. So you see, because there haven't been these resources as should have been, most of the projects that the commission went into, they can't, complete them. We have about 1.4, 1.5 trillion in contingent liabilities, ongoing projects in the commission, and it's a huge challenge.
Okay, Mr. Kerry, let's take a look at the core mandate itself now, taking a look at a master plan, which is almost 10 years
yes.
in focus now. It's not just for the commission, but spell out what kind of program on all the development partners or stakeholders, if I could use that word, the kind of projects, what it should be pursuing now. State governments, IOCs, international oil companies, local governments, and all the other development. What exactly has drained this particular synergy for all coming on board? If not, why would you have this litany of all abandoned projects, if we may use that particular word? What has happened? Really?
You put it right. You see, the Niger Delta master plan, the development master plan, it's a master plan for the entire region. It's a master plan that was supposed to have been keyed into by the state governments in the region, by the local governments in the region, by the IOCs and other development partners, every person that's working in the Niger Delta. Now, unfortunately, we haven't had the kind of synergy, we haven't had the kind of cooperation. All the stakeholders, all the development partners in the Niger Delta region are supposed to abide by the Niger Delta Development Master Plan. But unfortunately, that hasn't been. I think what we've done since we came in, we've discovered that there's been that disconnect between the governments of the region, the NDDC, the Ministry of Niger Delta, the development agencies, and so on. And so we've revived what we call the PSD, the Partnership for Sustainable Development. And that's a forum where we bring in all the development partners, all the states, and everybody go to the table and sit down and agree on, abiding by the master plan and the projects and programs that have got to be embarked upon. And then we did something this year in the commission since we came in, which is different. We, in coming up with the budget, we set up budget committees in each of the states, headed by the state representative on the board, on the governing board of the commission. And we said, go to your state government and sit down with the state government, agree on priority projects, the projects that you want NDDC to embark upon. And this is the first time that this is happening since NDDC came on board. And we had very good success in some of the states, particularly in Bayelsa State. And I must commend His Excellency Governor Dixon and the government of Bayelsa State, because the governor sat down with members of his executive committee, the commissioners. They sat down with our team for over 4 hours, going into, the projects that they want NDDC to embark upon in Bayelsa State. So we're trying to replicate this in virtually all the states as well, in all the states. We are hoping that if we're able to get the kind of synergy that we expect that we can get from the states and the local governments, and then the master plan will be back on track. But again, I must also mention, it's been 10 years, you rightly said that, so there is need to review the master plan. And so we've put in place a process to review the master plan. Fortunately, we are getting support from the European Union and from even the World Bank.
What are those concerns that you've seen in the master plan that you thought have not worked, that needs to be reviewed?
Well, like you rightly said, 10 years. It was expected that in 15 years we would have been somewhere. In 10 years, we haven't even been 20% of where we should have been. So really, you must go back to the drawing board. The major thing is to get the engagement and the buy-in of all the stakeholders. That must happen for the master plan to be successful.
I just before we come back again to the question of the master plan, let's back up to what you said earlier, that NDDC at present is having contingent liabilities of anything between 1.3 and 1.4 trillion naira. Yeah. And you're expecting 1.7 trillion or thereabout from the federal government, which hasn't come. Now, how has this affected your operation? Are you throwing up your hands, you know, in the exasperation, or you are devising new approaches, you know, towards seeking it to defray the liabilities and then also get the projects completed? Yes. 8,300 of them.
Mr. President has recently directed the Honorable Minister of Finance and the Minister of Budget and Planning to sit down with NDDC, reconcile all outstanding indebtedness of the federal government to the Commission, and then agree an acceptable payment plan so that the money can be paid to NDDC. This is a very, very positive step taken by the federal government, for which we are very grateful to Mr. President. But in the interval, what we've done is that also for the very first time, if you look at the budget of NDDC now, the budget that we put together, 70% of all the revenues coming into the Commission is going into ongoing projects. So we're reducing the number of new projects that we want to start. There are competing needs, of course, and that many communities have all kinds of requests. But we've said, because we already have such a huge balance sheet. I mean, the balance sheet is in such a terrible state already. We want to dedicate 70% of all the revenues that come into the Commission to servicing existing commitments and existing projects, and then the rest overheads, and then a few new projects, which of course we must start. When we came in, we articulated what we call the 4R strategy. A reform program to try and reform NDDC. I mean, the first R is to restructure our balance sheet, which is exactly what I've just talked about. Try and control new projects, new liabilities that you're getting into, and try to settle and service existing projects and complete them to the best of our ability. We want to reduce the number of projects. We've actually cancelled over 600 projects so far.
Why the cancellation? Because already been fingered as well.
These projects were awarded, and most of them, some of them for as long as 7 years. Contractors haven't mobilized; they haven't gone into site. So clearly, it's either they don't have the capacity to do what they're doing, or they're really not interested. So those are not serious projects. Those are not serious contractors. So we've cancelled them. We'll look at them again, see which ones really are needed for those communities. We'll rationalize them, and then the ones that really must happen, we'll go ahead and get into it. So we restructure the balance sheet, reform our governance system, because one of the greatest problems that we noticed in NDDC, and in fact most government organizations, is that the places are not properly run on set policies and are not followed. And so we are reforming the governance systems, introduced a lot of technology. You see, if you introduce technology into the way you run the organization, introduce international best practice, you reduce to the very barest minimum people's ability to just do things because they want to do it. That rules be followed, laws be respected, and then generally introduce international best practice in running NDDC. And then we restore the Commission back to its core mandate and generally reaffirm our commitment to doing what's good and proper. This is what is guiding the new board and management of the Commission. And there has been serious accolades coming in already. People and stakeholders have noticed that really there's a change. I'll tell you, recently we had an engagement with the governor of Abia State, and he was full of praises, definitely noticing that things are being run differently in the Commission than what has been in the past. But incidentally, I'll say this because it's very interesting. We had like a 2-hour engagement with the governor of Abia State. He spent 95% of that period, going through the things we've done and accolades and praises and all of that. And then towards the end, he now said, there's this particular project in my state, which NDDC started, which he would want us to please go back and try and make sure we get the contractor back on site to complete. Incidentally, all the news reports that came after that visit, the engagement with the governor was, you know, they were focused more on that one project the governor talked about. So we have to appeal to the press. We are trying to change NDDC. We also need support from the press so that we can, you know, together work.
Well, you're talking about it 4 hours, one of which is reforming your governance system.
Yes.
But let's begin from the very apex. Of course, there was news recently. There's been some clarification about the tenure of the board members, and as you very well know, the linchpin of corporate governance is the board of directors.
Yeah.
What is the correct status of the board?
Well, first of all, you see, we, the board and management, we serve at the pleasure of Mr. President in accordance with the act setting up the NDDC. I'm happy, like you said, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation has clarified the issue. There's nothing like a tenure elongation or renewal of tenure for the present board. That's totally out of the question. The new board was appointed by Mr. President following the dissolution of the last board, and the law clearly says what the tenure of the board should be. So that was a clarification that the Secretary to the Government of the Federation made. But you see, it's interesting. You know, a lot of things in Nigeria, and the Niger Delta is very, you know, as aggressive and as engaging as the region is. A lot of the things going on there, unfortunately, get so badly politicized. The issue of tenure, I mean, in my mind, has been so unduly politicized. Don't forget, people have this impression, rightly or wrongly, maybe because of what used to happen in the past, that NDDC supports political parties. And so my interpretation of what is going on and the agitation on this board tenure thing is just a concern by 1 or 2 politicians to control the NDDC.
Well, I was wondering. Yes, I was wondering. Just you know, you talked about engagement with state governments as a new approach to what you are seeking to do. Let NDDC at the state level, you know, meet with the state governors, and then you sort this out. Have you also had the so-called stakeholders meeting with beneficiaries of the project?
Oh, absolutely.
And what feedback have you received from them, in particular, as to one, the nature of the somewhat tokenist projects that you have, and then some of the projects being so shoddily executed?
We've met, like we've met with them stakeholders, and we keep meeting with them, from the royal fathers to the youths to the women. We meet with all the stakeholders from time to time, and one of the things we have recognized is very important is continuous engagement with the stakeholders and the beneficiaries of our projects. So we keep meeting with them. But you see, on our own, at the level of management, we've recognized that some of NDDC projects in the past were not properly executed. I had to call a meeting of all the consultants handling, designing and supervising NDDC projects. I had that engagement with them about 2 months ago, and I read the Riot Act to them. First of all, because the region is as challenged as it is, don't forget that we have a very, very difficult terrain. So it means that right from project conceptualization, design of the projects, the design have got to be the very best to be able to stand the test of time. You don't design drainage, for instance, in an area that has 10 months of rainfall, and you design a drainage this big. Definitely it can't work. So we've told them that right from design, you must make sure you use the correct standards in designing these projects, the specifications to be used for the projects that we're building. Again, because of our terrain, you must make sure that is the very best. You know, so we've been able to agree on this, and then agree on a few other things with our consultants and even our project monitoring division, because I'm interested that at the end of the day, even if it's 2, 3 roads you want to build, but make sure you build the best roads. And that's what we are engaged, we're committed to doing. And that's why what we're doing, changing the narrative.
All right. Still looking at what to do to actually change further narratives of what we've seen in the time past. I'm glad you talked about technology. And over time, NDDC to have supported scholarship program, overseas scholarship programs for students of the region. Now, but I'm glad you're here to actually take us through some of those areas that are of concern to you. But of greater concern to some of those scholarship programs now said that there's abandonment on some of them. You wish to elaborate and let us know the clarification on that particular part. But what exactly is being done to prepare students and even people of that region to embrace new technologies that will be 21st century compliant to actually address the problems of the region? That's not the only region of the world that is having peculiar terrain.
Right. We believe that education is the way to go. It's if you're interested in changing the country, changing the region, away from some of the vices that we have today, then of course the youths and the younger generation must be exposed to the right kind of education. And that's why NDDC over the years has been training our youths and our students, providing scholarship programs, schools in all over the world. When we came in, we had loads of petitions and complaints. I'll give you some example. Somebody registers for a master's program, which is 12 months. And then you find out that in year 2017, you are still getting bills for a master's student who was given a scholarship in year 2010, for instance. So how come I'm being asked to pay in 2017 scholarships to a master's degree student that has been in school supposedly for 6 years? There was a lot of things we noticed. I mean, I set up a committee to look at all these anomalies. We mustn't spend money or allow government money to just be frittered away frivolously. And so we looked at, on a case-by-case basis, all the cases of students on scholarship. And then for the genuine ones we've paid. I mean, there are still a few, one or two, because now we ensure that the money goes directly to the university. Before now, you will see that some monies were paid to private accounts. All kinds of things were going on with the scholarship program, but we've streamlined it.
Was there racketeering?
You said it, but you see,
I'm asking a question. I'm asking a question. Yeah.
We are
was
trying.
There racketeering? Apparent racketeering.
We are trying to sanitize the scholarship program of NDDC, ensure that students that are genuinely in universities get paid, and that government money is not wasted. Unfortunately, the process has taken a slightly longer than it should have, because some of those cases we really had to contact the universities, and some of these have taken time. So we apologize to the students who are genuinely in school, if there are some of them who yet have not been paid, but we are working to ensure that all genuine students, genuine recipients of the NDDC scholarship program receive their due monies.
I asked a question earlier about what has always been one major complaint of the beneficiaries of NDDC projects, namely that these projects tended to be rather tokenist. You will see a signboard, NDDC, borehole, NDDC, and then some bush path that is constructed that cracks up after a while. Is NDDC likely to move away from some of these scarcely significant projects into projects that have the most benefits or most potential for catalyzing socio-economic growth in the region?
We believe that NDDC was set up to help regional integration and regional development. We believe in big-ticket regional projects that would positively impact the region. We don't believe that we should be struggling with local government areas, for instance, local government councils, to provide chalk for classroom blocks, buy pen and pencils. You know, that's, I don't believe, is why NDDC was set up. In our engagement with the state governments, we've identified some key projects, major projects that we're doing. first of all, with the Ondo state government, we're doing a road from Ilaje area of Ondo that will lead Ondo straight to Lagos, to the Lekki area.
Oh, I see.
Yes, and it's the alignment we're using is what the original coastal road that was designed. So we use that alignment, and in 45 minutes, it will be possible to go from Ondo to Lekki in Lagos. These are the kind of things we're doing. In Delta State, for instance,
this is still at the conception stage.
Yes, we've finished the designs. We have the MOU with the state government. The consultants have come up with the designs which we've seen, and the project is going to be kickstarted. In the next couple of months, I'll say. In Delta State, for instance, part of the presidential initiative in the Niger Delta, which was led by His Excellency the Vice President, and following the visit from to the host communities, you see, we discovered that the Maritime University that's being proposed is in an area that doesn't have access. In fact, the students would have to go with boats to the university. So we are building a road. We are proposing a road now, which we are building from Warri, that will go through Escravos to Okoronkoko to service the Maritime University and other coastal communities in that. So these are the kind of things NDDC is doing now. And again, let me also say this, because we're moving away. It's good to build infrastructure, which NDDC has done over the years, roads, bridges, and so on and so forth. But we're going into the soft side. We just signed an MOU 2 days ago with SMEDEN and BHIIP, a private sector consultant, and we want to build the first enterprise hub in the country. It's an innovation hub for innovation and enterprise. Want to build businesses, startups, help the youth and people in the region to start businesses, so that, you see, we talk of unemployment and so on and so forth. We talk of poverty. We believe that if we can engage the population to start small and micro-scale businesses, it will help create jobs, it will drive the economy of the region, it will take our people away from criminality and other vices. So these are the things that NDDC is doing differently from what we used to do. Recently also, we were on the island of Sao Tome and Principe, and we met with the Prime Minister, and the idea is to try and deepen internet connectivity in the Niger Delta. They've got so much excess capacity. The bandwidth that Sao Tome has a population of less than 170,000 people for the whole country. Nigeria has almost 200 million people. Now, with the same internet capacity that we have in Nigeria is what Sao Tome has. So they have excess capacity which they don't need. And it's just 30 minutes away from Port Harcourt. So we met with them, and fortunately the Prime Minister agreed. So we use marine cables, and we'll pipe, take some of the excess capacity that they don't need and bring it into the Niger Delta and, distribute it.
Is NCC in the loop with this?
Yes, we're working with the Galaxy Backbone, which is the federal government entity in this. Yeah.
So still on the infrastructure, I mean, let's talk about the hard projects one more time, in addition to the soft one that you talked about. Ilaje to Lagos, that's the Lekki area. Fine idea. That's the old coastal highway that was proposed.
Yes.
Will it terminate at Ilaje, or do you intend, to continue running into other Niger Delta states going forward?
No, what we want to do going forward, and that's in the long term, is to ensure that that coastal road, the coastal highway, linking all the coastal communities in Nigeria should be done. But we can do it in phases, because we can't afford to take on that now. So that's part of the road. It's part of that alignment. So eventually, ultimately, we intend that the other parts of that road would still be done. In fact, some group came to meet with us the other day, and they are proposing that they can even finance some Chinese construction company. They're proposing to come in with financing.
That would be a PPP.
Kind of, and
then
then
it to be a tollable road.
And toll the road. So we need to engage the federal government on this, and if we get the approvals, then we can progress that discussion.
All right, Mr. Kerry, before we go on the home stretch, we have Nigerians reacting already to this conversation. So look at the tweets, then we'll call it today on the program. Clifford Agogesi has a tweet said the commission must be self-sanitizing. However, other gatekeepers must be alive to their responsibilities with a view of ensuring an accountable commission.
This is from Jibril99. Says, I appreciate you, Mr. Nsima, that's Nsima Ekere, for sending delegations to the Niger Delta states to identify priority projects.
Festus Akimboyewa has this tweet, NDDC should complete all their abandoned projects before committing to new ones. It doesn't make sense to dig up residential roads and abandon them.
Law of Asi, and particularly enthralled by the transparency and moral rectitude of President Buhari to revive the agency and make it result-oriented.
And here's another tweet from Festus Akimboyewa. NDDC has failed to accomplish its missions because of failure to understand that providing funding for smaller community initiatives is just as important for Niger Delta development as multi-billion naira infrastructure projects.
Sani Michael Amakoji, Mr. Ekere, can you tell Nigerians why there is no significant contribution from the NDDC to Ogoni land over the years, despite the huge money sunk into the commission? Do you think this commission should continue to remain with us?
Clifford Agogesi has another tweet. Credit goes to the Obasanjo administration for establishing policies and guidelines for the development of the Niger Delta area. How have successive governments done in ensuring impeccable execution?
All right, Mr. Kerry, you had a couple of tweets
yes.
there for you to respond to. Of course, you said you were appointed only last year, but is NDDC still relevant?
Absolutely. NDDC is still very relevant. The demands, the challenges of the Niger Delta exist. Very little of it has been addressed already, and there's still so much to be done. Of course, I agree with some of them. Because the responsibilities and the demands are so much, you can't realistically tackle all of them at the same time. I'm talking particularly to the gentleman from Ogoni land. We've done quite a lot in Ogoni land since we came in a year ago. There's a part of that area that didn't have electricity ever. And we've linked them up to the national grid now. We've provided electricity. We've done a lot of roads in the Ogoni land. So I'm sure if he checks, he can't say that again now. It probably happened before, but not anymore.
All right, Mr. NDDC, is it thinking beyond oil? This is a finite resource. Well, they're saying it will dry up one day. What other means of funding are you taking a look at as a commission to actually help develop the region?
That I talked about the soft side, like Kingsley mentioned. Two things that we have done since we came in to address the concerns of NDDC after oil. Like you rightly said, parts of the world in the next 15, 20 years, our oil, even if it's still there, even if it doesn't dry up, may not be as attractive as it is now. And so that's why we are partnering with Nexim Bank. And we're doing the Agric Export Initiative, Niger Delta Agricultural Export Initiative. The idea is partner with them. They have the technical know-how, they have the funding. We would also provide some funding. We're starting with an initial fund of 5 billion naira, 2.5 on either side. NDDC brings 2.5, Nexim Bank brings 2.5. And we help local people develop the agricultural value chain for export so that eventually it can bring foreign exchange. That's one program. We want to see how it goes. It's a pilot program right now, and then if it succeeds, we'll enlarge it. Because when the oil is no more bringing money, our agriculture should bring money. Well, I've also told you about the enterprise hub that we're setting up. It will be the first in Nigeria. There's no other enterprise hub in Nigeria. We discovered that Smedan had, in fact, as late as far back as the 70s, they had what they call IDCs, Industrial Development Centers, all over the country. Unfortunately, all these industrial development centers have been closed down. And so we are partnering with them to revamp them in the Niger Delta so that we can get our young people, get people in there, train them, and mentor them so that they start new businesses and grow the economy.
In line with what you're saying, Mr. Ekere, I'm sure you are familiar with what is perhaps in the views of some persons, as they have also expressed, the blight of so-called skills acquisition centers.
Oh, yes.
And you have candidates who get admitted into those skills acquisition centers. Some of them come out, some of them graduate, some do not graduate, some get starter packs. There would appear to be no follow-ups. Are the skill acquisition centers still useful? Are also the follow-up measures still relevant, or you need to revise your game plan?
Good. You see, that's the reason we're doing what we're doing now with SMEDAN. We discovered that when I came in, I looked at the books. We've had several training programs, all kinds of skills. Like you said, most of them are the graduates at the end, they get starter packs. And then a year, 2 years down the line, you see that someone that was trained in some skill and given starter pack is still on the streets begging. We have these young boys that are at the gate of NDDC. I hear that some of them have been there for over 15 years. And some of them have benefited from the training programs that NDDC has had over the years. So we've seen that we must do it differently. And that's why we're going into the partnership with SMEDAN and IIP. Now, the enterprise hubs are different. They bring you in, give you the skills that are necessary, but more importantly, they mentor you. The difference is that, you see, they don't just train you, give you the skill, and ask you to go and set up on your own. No. You set up, in fact, they provide the facilities for you to set up and run within their premises, under their mentorship. So it is only when you have stabilized that you are now assisted to go outside of the premises. It's a very robust arrangement, and I believe that it will definitely take care of the problem you've just highlighted.
All right, Mr. Ekere, one last comment from you, very briefly. In terms of synergy, the question that Blessing raised earlier, what has been the psychological barrier that the states, local governments, and NDDC have had to scale or should scale to ensure that you are on the same planning page, you are on the same table, you are on the same course?
My answer to that is simple. It's more engagement. You can't expect a local government council chairman in Edo State, for instance, or in Ilaje in Edo State, or in Akwa Ibom in Eket, for instance, to know what I'm doing in NDDC, in Port Harcourt head office, if I don't engage them. They might not even understand what is in the master plan. They may not. Don't forget that this master plan, like you said, 10 years ago, some of these, the present crop of leaders are not even familiar with the contents and the expectations of the various tiers of government under the master plan. So engagement. That's why we're revamping the PSD, Partnership for Sustainable Development, so that everybody will sit on the table, send representatives, and we meet every 2 weeks, every month, and then agree on our strategies, agree on the parameters we should use, and then we work together on the same page. It's engagement.
All right, Mr. Nsima Ekere, Managing Director of the Nigeria Data Development Commission, the NDDC, would like to thank you for your time and the insights you have provided on the activities of the NDDC. Thank you very much, and we hope that your new governance system subsists to the extent that the boardroom squabbles that used to be one key feature of the NDDC do not pop up at some point.
The Sycamore advisory.
So that does it for our second topic for discussion. Let's go over now to the foreign scene. Blessing.
Yes, so we'll have a story on Zimbabwe as the president, Robert Mugabe, of course, is in mediation talks over his future. Also, 11 tourists killed in a crash in Tanzania. Let's find out more details with Garba Mohamed Natala.
Zimbabwe's longtime president, Robert Mugabe, has been holding direct talks with the army over his future. Sources said on Thursday he is resisting mediation by a Catholic priest to allow Mugabe have a graceful exit after a military coup. The priest, Fidelis Mukunori, is acting as a middleman between Mugabe and the generals who seized power on Wednesday. The source could not provide details of the talks, which appear to be aimed at a smooth and bloodless transition after the departure of Mugabe, who has led Zimbabwe since independence in 1980. Elsewhere, at least 11 people were killed in northern Tanzania when a light aircraft flying to the Serengeti National Park, a popular tourist destination, crashed. Coastal aviation officials said the Cessna Caravan light airplane carrying a pilot and 10 passengers was flying tourists from the northern Tanzanian town of Arusha when it went down. The Tanzanian air charter company said the identities of the dead will be withheld until their families are notified.
Natala, thank you very much there for the tidbits on the foreign scene. Let's go over now to our weather center to check out the weather prospects for the rest of today.
Welcome to the weather segment. I'm Adedolu Adamlola. Let's take a look at our forecast. For